Hey everyone. On previous Yooka-Laylee installments of the Kongversation, I promised that on this episode, I would deduce how the Yooka-Laylee toy box character Inept relates to the World 4 boss Inept, and whether or not the corporate security drones found throughout Ivory Towers share some sort of hive mind. I would use my one skill in life, complex mental gymnastics for figuring out children's games, to hopefully resolve this issue in an impressively satisfying way. Well, I lied. I didn't get around to doing any of that. No, I just couldn't be bothered. No, I'm not going to apologize. I'm tired. You try talking about this nonsense for 2.5 hours every week. I'm gonna start the episode now, okay? Okay.
I might be missing an eye and a leg, but at least I've got my dignity.
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. Oh yeah, I'm Hyle Russell, and with me, once again, oh my god, is that Joe fucking Mudd?
Hello, I'm Joe fucking Mudd. How are you?
It's what you like to do, Joe. It rains and you run out like a kid in a candy store.
And I fuck the mud, yes.
That is exactly what you do, which, you know, I imagine if it weren't for all the earthworms and various things bubbling up from the Earth's soil, would be quite a pleasurable experience when you think about the consistency of the mud.
Oh, it's still pleasurable. They can swim up my urethra.
See, that would be what I would worry about. By the way, I would like to just give a warm and hearty welcome to any of the Platonic staff who might be tuning in for this episode. The bacteria in the mud that would swim up any various holes. That would be what would worry me about that pleasurable activity. So anyway, Joe, hello. It's been a while. I believe the Donkey Kong Land 2 Spotlight episode, that everybody's favorite from last year, that didn't piss anybody off with my musical selection. That's the last time you've been on the show. And here you are again. Welcome back. People have been asking, bring back Joe Mudd, bring back Joe Mudd. and here we are.
Yes, that's right. I am just a wee bit nervous because this is not only is this my first live episode, but people have paid money to listen to this, so I've got to be top of my game, you know?
Yes, we are live streaming this for the patrons, $5 and up, on Twitch. So Joe has never experienced this level of performance before, because before we could just edit out all the times you fucked up. And now there's going to be an audience where your complete inadequacies as a performer are on display. So
yeah, I just try not to say that. I'll hold the little SOBs for another week at the end of recording.
So anyway, apologies if I stop to take a swig. I am drinking Angry Orchard hard cider for this episode.
Ooh, lovely.
What's the occasion, you might ask? The occasion is I like alcohol.
You know, I think this is my first dry conversation. I usually start the show like, hello, I'm Joe Mudd. And then 2 hours in, I'm like, I tell you. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, when you said it was your first dry episode, I just thought it meant you were like chafing in your under regions in past episodes. And I was going to suggest, you know, they have creams and ointments that help you with
really
with that dryness. Yes. No.
Godsend.
Anyway, Joe, it's nice to have you here, and a little bit of an announcement. I'm surprised you're here because I never thought you would be back. You had left the site staff a couple years ago, and we never really made an official announcement about this. But as of E3, you have rejoined DK Vine.
Yeah, that's right. I weaseled my way back in.
Yeah, I know. It's like we changed the locks. I don't know what you're doing here, but it's nice to have you back, Joe.
Thank you. It's really nice to be back, actually.
Yeah. When you left, there wasn't any. I just want to on the record. It wasn't like you were fired or anything.
No.
You stepped down because you felt like you just didn't have time to contribute, and now we've basically said none of us have any time to contribute. Being a DK Vine staffer means nothing. Welcome back, Joe.
Yay. No, I just kind of had personal emotional issues and anger management, really. I could sense I was starting to lash out at people and drive them crazy. I just thought I should have some time to go and cool off. And then one problem kind of turned into another problem, and then life just kept happening. And now I feel like I'm at a point in my life where everything's kind of all right for now. So I thought I might as well try and come back for a bit.
So now DK Vine can ruin you all over again.
It wasn't DK Vine that did it.
That's what they all say, but we know the truth. It's like there's a pattern here. We just chew everybody up and spit them out. It's I'm really, I think, the toxic center of this horrible candy that is DK Vine, and I don't realize it, but it's me. It's me, isn't it? Because I'm really the continual factor in all of this madness, and I'm the one who's really ruining everybody's lives along the way.
Now, to be honest, everyone on DK Vine is a massive twat.
Yeah.
It's everybody's fault. I hate the lot of you.
Well, we hate you too, Joe. And on that note, it's time to get everybody else to hate us because it's time for due diligence. So, as we mentioned, Patreon, you can listen to the conversation live as we record. So all the bits that don't make it in, like presumably all of this stuff, you can hear before we edit it out. And
and our live sex line as well. Those calls you can only hear if you subscribe to Patreon.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of shady shit going on behind the scenes. You don't even know. Right now, as of this week, we've launched the DK Vine Inner Circle on Discord. So this is something we said we were going to do before E3, and we finally did it. Basically, we've had the DK Vine Inner Circle on Skype. It's just been an ongoing Skype chat. And we still have the Inner Circle on Skype, but most of the DK Vine community seems to have shifted to Discord. And I'm an old man, Joe. I remember and prefer AOL Instant Messenger when that was the main source of communication for the DK Vine crowd. But everybody,
remember when this was all fields.
Yeah, we just made crop circles. That's how we communicated to each other. It was just
Back in my day, we didn't even have instant messaging. We had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to our nearest telephone box if we wanted to speak to our friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Discord. I didn't even know what the fuck Discord was, and I've educated myself. We have the Inner Circle on Discord now, so it's an ongoing, basically, perpetual chat with the DK Vine staff, and you get insights into all sorts of upcoming DK Vine projects, and also our upcoming site makeovers. So you can be part of that process of rebuilding DK Vine from the ground up in the Inner Circle, now on Discord and Skype. So check that out. And we also have stickers, bumper stickers, the Minecraft server for $2 a month. That's being actually shepherded by Jeff Onan now. Jeff has kind of come back into the fold as well, along with Joe, and Jeff's in charge of our Minecraft servers. So, because I don't know the first thing about Minecraft server, but after Minecraft in general, but after Chad left, I wanted to keep that going, and Jeff was the best option. So thank you, Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
I have to slow down on this hard cider there, Joe. We haven't even gotten to the ukulele discussion, and it's already just like more than half gone.
I like to use the term hard cider because I believe there are non-alcoholic ciders in the States, aren't there?
That's the majority of cider in the States is non-alcoholic because we're puritanical idiots.
Yeah, it's just it's you can get non-alcoholic ciders, but for the most part, when you say cider over here, you mean
right.
alcoholic. Yeah,
right. No, I mean essentially cider is just tangier apple juice over here, and then you've got to specify there's hard cider. But this is Angry Orchard. It's my favorite brand of hard cider. You probably don't have it over there unless it's like imported. But
it sounds familiar. I might recognize the label. I mean, I've drunk a lot of ciders in my time.
The label is essentially the Deku tree from off of The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. We've got that definitely.
Okay, all right.
My personal favorite is ass balls, and not just because of the name that makes me giggle like a child.
Now, how is that fermented? I have to ask.
I dread to think.
Anyway, Patreon. Check it out, dkvan.com/Patreon. And as I mentioned, we have a new site makeover coming. It's in the early stages right now, but it's very exciting. Joe, you're part of that process.
Yep.
And so dkvine.com, right now it's still a broken mess, but hopefully soon it will be refurbished for the, I guess, the third decade of the 21st century coming up. Christ. Anyway, it'll be ready before then, but I'm saying we're with an eye to the future, but also rooted in firm nostalgia. So it's exciting times. dkvine.com. Call the DK Vine hotline to be on the conversation. 1-202-630-VINE. Vine. That's 8.
Has that changed since my day when I used to be on this show?
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, so we got a new hotline number. Yeah.
Whoa.
Now there's a new jingle to go along with that, and would you like to sing the jingle? You remember the old jingle, right?
Kind of. Could I just make one up?
No.
To reach us by cell or landline, call 1-202-630... ... and a word. That is how the hotline goes. Yeah.
I mean, that was impressive that you could come up with that on the spot, but that's wrong. That's not how you sing the song. Fine, whatever. This is your first episode back after a long hiatus.
I'll get me coat.
I'll allow it for now. Subscribe to The Conversation on iTunes. Rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends about the show. Don't forget to get Fabio on The Conversation. Whatever means necessary, barring murder or sexual crimes. We need to get Fabio on The Conversation. I know you agree, Joe. I know you
agree. Who's Fabio?
Exactly. Hashtag bring back the spiders. And outside of DK Vine, we also want to give a plug for the Sea of Thieves Insider program at seaofthieves.com/Insider, INSIDER. Not the old Nintendo Insider where they left off the I at the beginning. This has the I. The Insider program is how you get into the technical alpha and how you can play Sea of Thieves before it comes out. And you will get to play it before it comes out. Rare has guaranteed that. So we want more people to play with us in the DK Vine community, and it's so much fun. It's literally the most fun I've ever had playing a video game with other people. And we want to get as many people to experience it and be part of that magic before it even comes out. So seaofthieves.com/insider. And finally, in September, Robin Beanland, beloved Rare composer, will be cycling across the entire length of Britain for 9 exhaustive days. He's doing it for the charity Special Effect. They use video games and technology to improve the lives of the disabled. So Robin Beanland is sacrificing his body and mind for a good cause, and you can give to that cause by going to justgiving.com, that's it, and search for Robin Beeland. So I don't envy him whatsoever. I mean,
No.
good for him for doing it, but jeez.
That's a trek. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not a trek.
I hope he doesn't have to go back to work like the day after he finishes that. Like, I assume he's taking off for work to do this. Like, this is his vacation time. I hope he doesn't have to, like, then go back to work that Monday.
Oh, God.
Yeah. My God. Well, justgimme.com. All right. Joe,
Yes?
you're back on the show. So, why don't you read some fucking YouTube comments, you prick?
Righto. Let me just bring up the link. Sorry, I should have done this in advance.
That's all right. You're rusty, but...
Yep, these are the comments for the Kongversation episode 523, Better Call Sack. Cyber says, you have no idea how scary minutes 58 to 60 were when you're listening to this past midnight. Well, it's not that scary. Oh, well, boy, is my face red because I've not actually seen this, listened to this episode. So I don't know what they're on about. Hashtag Slippin' Diddy. Hashtag Fuck Chucky Poo. You know, I'm starting to think this is a bad idea. Hyle hates good and plenty, unsubbed. Hyle says, I've said many controversial things over the years, but I'll stand by that one. It's medical waste resold as candy. And Jack John Carpenter says, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. So, yeah, those were the YouTube, and that's all the YouTube comments.
I like how nothing makes sense out of context. It's
No. What is this hashtag bring back the spiders? Who's Fabio?
I know.
What is this is not my beautiful house.
The sad thing is you're on the staff now, Joe, and you don't know anything that's going on. Things have gotten weird
Sorry,
since
everyone.
you've
I'm gonna
left.
have to catch up. Everyone's going to be demanding their Patreon money by the end of this episode. They're going to be demanding refunds. Sorry,
They do that anyway. Don't worry.
good.
So, here we are. This is what we've been calling our Yooka-Laylee wrap-up episode, but that's kind of a misnomer because there's still going to be more to discuss for Yooka-Laylee going forward. Obviously, there's the Switch version that's coming out. And in addition to that, there's been rumblings maybe of DLC or some sort of additional content. I don't know how accurate that is. That's just what the rumor mill has been churning on about. So we're not calling this officially our final thoughts or whatever. This is just Yooka-Laylee Beyond World 5. It allows us to finally to discuss the end of the game. Finally, like, break free from all the spoilers up to this world stage of the discussion, and give our thoughts on the game, our complete thoughts and feelings about Yooka-Laylee now that we've beaten it. And we'll be coming back to Yooka-Laylee when the Switch version comes out, or whenever they have the next update. Or Yooka-Laylee discussion is not exactly tabled, but this is putting, as Chad always said, a pin in it for now. So. Our thoughts, Joe. You're going to get into your thoughts about Yooka-Laylee here, but since this is kind of, we'll save that for more the end this time. I've been waiting to discuss Ivory Towers as a whole until we got to this episode. And now that we've seen all of Ivory Towers, all of the overworld hub, I want to really get into what we think about it. And I think... as a whole, I enjoyed the Ivory Towers overworld. It was lacking a bit in as far as like clear linear progression, and I don't mean like I really got lost. I admit there were a couple times I wasn't quite sure where to go, and I eventually figured it out. I remember trying to get to where World 4 and 5 were. I looked for that for a while. Because
I got stuck as well. I think trying to find World 3, I just got totally lost.
Well, I think part of the problem is like Grunty's lair, for the most part in Banjo-Kazooie, you just kept going up and up and up and up, and there was that like, okay, we're going to start at the base and we're going to go to the top tower. And
Yeah.
the worlds are mostly going to be laid out. I mean, there was some...
Not only that, but you also started at the entrance every time you booted the game up. So you memorized the path to the bit you've gotten to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know I mentioned this before, but you mentioned World 3. Yeah, because I thought, like, World 3 would be, like, past World 2, but you had to backtrack and go through the archives and then the waterworks. And then World 4 and 5 were kind of hidden. Like, to get up there, it was kind of hidden in this weird nook and cranny on the side. So there was some confusion. It's kind of overblown. It was a big complaint from some critics when the game came out. I think that was overblown, but I never really felt like, okay, this is how Hybrid Towers is laid out. This is how this building is blueprinted. I never really got a cohesive sense of that, and it always felt like there was... I don't know. It's not cluttered or anything, and the game helpfully like gives you shortcuts, so you can go from the main room into the later rooms. But I don't know. There was just... I never really felt a sense of progression like I felt in Banjo-Kazooie. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. One of the first things I noticed with the new green and purple patch that's just come out is they've added signs telling you where the next world is, which way you got to go. Yeah, it makes a huge amount of difference, I'd say. The layout definitely confused me, and I went through it. Something that really bugged me was just the sheer amount of loading. The loading screens are just so long, and they put me right off wanting to explore the factory. And I thought, hang on, the worlds themselves are bigger than this. There are no internal loading screens. Why do they have to... I didn't understand why so much loading was necessary. Not only that, but there was no fast travel system like Jam Jars' silos or, the cauldrons. There should have been something to take you to the level you want to go to instantly, I think, once you've unlocked it.
No, I don't mind walking. Honestly, like in Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, I would sometimes just skip the cauldrons or the silos and just trek it by foot because I find it enjoyable. But yeah, the loading screens, they're not as bad as, say, Tropical Freeze, where you would have these massive loading screens between each stage. But
see, I thought in Tropical Freeze it didn't bother me because it didn't interrupt the gameplay. You'd wait before you start, then once you've started, there's not another loading screen until you finish the level. But with here, this is like, if I wanted to go from one level to another or go between levels trying to collect 100%, it could take ages, and there could be 2 or 3 loading screens just to walk down a couple of corridors, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm not a game designer. I don't know exactly the mechanics of when the game needed to load, so I can't really criticize that from that point of view. But
that's true.
At the very least, the game took the piss out of it with the if this was cartridge based, this game would have loaded by now.
Which doesn't make sense because I downloaded it on Steam. It's running the game from my hard drive. That'll be even faster than cartridges, surely.
I was going to ask how you were playing it.
Yeah, that's to remove that from the Switch version. So, what are you playing it on?
Xbox One.
Oh, of course.
Purportedly the worst version of the game right now. So,
oh dear.
Yeah, so got to be upfront about this. I have not exactly 100% completed Yooka-Laylee, and I think the Capital Casino glitch befell me. I don't know if you know about this, Joe. But
apparently, since you get the new green and purple patch. As soon as you enter Capital Casino, it will give you any tokens you're missing.
It hasn't done that, so I don't know what's going on. It's basically what happens is when you have let's say you have 20 tokens in Capital Casino and you go to trade it into Capital B. There's a glitch where if you're trading in more than let's say 20 or more, I guess more than 19 tokens, and you get multiple pages in one go, there's a glitch where it won't give you the extra pagey. It just forgets to give it to you, and then you're just perpetually short a pagey or whatever in the world.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I think the patch has only... Sorry. I think the patch has only landed on the PC, not yet on the Xbox version.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it came out yet on the consoles. Maybe it has, and I just need to go back into Capital Casino. But yeah, I like was racking my brain, and then I was like, I've gotten everything. I don't understand. Then I eventually realized, oh, the glitch. It got me. It got me in the end. So I haven't 100% completed it, but I looked into it and I'm not missing anything. I don't think by 100% completing it. There's a neat jingle you get when you get all the pages in the game, but besides like the music that plays when you get the final pagey, it's an original composition. But besides that,
I noticed that it's kind of a shame. I think it's kind of a waste when you only hear tracks like that once ever. I think it should have been like when you get all the pages in each world, like the one you get in Banjo-Kazooie. They're go.
Right. Yeah, I wish there was more fanfare when you got all the pages in each world, because it is an undertaking. It's 25 in each world, so it's but I don't mind when you have like unique musical cues, because it makes it feel all the more special. So it's fine. But I just wish I could hear that in my actual game. But anyway,
frustrating.
Yeah. But as far as Hyrule Towers goes, I generally enjoyed the design of it, and if not the layout, in the end, it was still an enjoyable overworld, and I really like Shipwreck Creek. I wish like there are more reasons to go back out to Shipwreck Creek. Like, I know there's the butterfly extender that you can get once you learn the flight move, and there's various other things that keep you going back out there. But it's such a pleasant little nook in this world that I really would want to spend more time on there. And I wish there was a way to get into the Batship Crazy and like explore the inside of it.
Yeah, maybe for Yooka-Laylee, I guess. I completely agree. I liked it there, and the only reason, I went back because I left a couple of quills there, and I didn't realise there was still a couple of quills to collect.
There's only 10 quills in the overworld.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I suppose Yooka-Laylee will have something happen there, because they've already got the environment made, so they can just use it to do as much as they want with it,
So are we officially calling it Yooka-Laylee? Is that the official fan consensus of that's what the sequel's got to be called?
That's what I'd like to call it. People are coming up with things like Yooka-Toolie.
That's awful. It's Yooka-Laylee. You're exactly right. That's what it needs to be called. I mean, that's I just wasn't, because I was going to bring up obviously it's got to be called Yooka-Laylee.
Or the Laylee
point. And you beat me to it, so I didn't know if that was what the internet had already settled on, and I was just out of the loop, beaten the way I normally am. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll get into the possibilities of sequels at near the end of the episode. But there's enough mysteries there that the Shipwreck Creek and especially the Batship Crazy need to come back into play, and they can do like they did with Banjo-Tooie and just use that as the launching point and go from there.
What I'd really love to see, just like Tooie, is now that they've got all the cast, let's have them interacting with each other outside of their role in the game. Expand on them, their lives, their personalities. What I loved about Banjo-Tooie was all of a sudden everyone had a wife and kids, and we got to see all their families. And also, let's just have the characters sitting around being themselves, playing poker or whatever. Mumbo and Humber had a completely unexplained rivalry. Let's find out that Trouser and Dr. Puzz fucking hate each other for whatever reason, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe not getting too much into it right now, but the ending of the game hints to maybe a lot of these characters are going to form friendships from this point on.
Yeah.
And, I love that Banjo-Tooie opens with a poker game with, Banjo-Kazooie, Mumbo, and Bottles. I like that level of familiarity, and that this is what goes on when adventures aren't happening. This world is just... And we brought this up before on the Kongversation, but Platonic has really captured that to a great degree, that level of mundaneness that, this is a fantastic world with talking animals and weird shit and magic books and whatnot, but
and, like,
also
the odd human here and there that feels completely out of place. Just like
yeah. But there's also, besides all that, there's also it's just the world that exists, and there's this level of like again, mundane day-to-day life that just happens. And you got a lot of that with like the capital B, and just like, oh, this is a business and it's run like a business. And I like stuff like that. So I like stuff that makes this feel like a living, breathing world and not just a series of obstacle courses in a video game, So
yeah, definitely.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, Ivory Towers, as far as like the construction goes, it's my least favorite world, if you want to call it that, in the game. But overall, I don't have too many qualms about it. It just got a little bit confusing, and especially near the end there, I remember just being like, okay, wait, I have to go here or here, or where does this take me? Like, I felt like I was going to get off the beaten path, and I'm glad they've added signs at the very least in the PC version to help, because
it will eventually drop on the Xbox. I think, from what I've heard, they're waiting until the Switch release to patch the PlayStation Xbox versions for some reason. Yeah, I have to say, I really didn't expect to be at 100% by the time of this recording, with, like, not to brag, but like all the achievements and everything, because I was just kind of playing it casually here and there, because to be honest, I got it the same day I bought my Nintendo Switch, so, that's had most of my attention. Then I played a bit of Thimbleweed Park, which is amazing. That's another story. And yeah, I didn't expect to. One afternoon, I felt like I was at like 50% on Yooka-Laylee, and then all of a sudden that went up to about 90%, and then I just spent a couple of hours doing that final bit, and I was like, oh, I'm done. Jesus.
Yeah, it's a game that, like, it came out in mid-April, early to mid-April, and unfortunately, it's with E3 coming up, it's like the busiest time behind the scenes for DK Vine. So it was just this weird thing where I'm running this video game website that centers around Rare and the world of Rare, and I didn't have time to play Yooka-Laylee to the degree I wanted to. And it's a game that, like, I've been playing intermittently here and there, and it was a good feeling, though, to finally have all the moves and then go back and 100% these worlds that I've, like, just left. And it's like, oh, thank God, World 2, 100%, World 3, 100%. That was a good feeling.
The way the learning curve works, and to be honest, so much of playing this game felt so familiar, like triggered these long forgotten sensations of what it was like playing Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie and Donkey Kong 64 for the first time. That when you start a new level that you've never played before, it all feels so huge and so daunting. And then, like, 10 hours later, you're still like, oh God, this is huge, I'm never going to finish. And then when you finally get the hang of it, all of a sudden, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how a video game should play. Like, there's so many parts of this game that had me swearing my head off, like Rextro and Kartos. And then I realised it's not unfair. You just got to get good at it. You just got to practice and practice and practice. And then when you do, it's like you can do it with your hands tied behind your back. It's really well designed, I think.
I still want to punch Kartos in the face.
I want to strangle Rextro, especially for that Capital Casino game.
Oh. Yeah. Couple more things about Ivory Towers that I've jotted down on my notes that I wanted to bring up, being that we're the Kongversation. So, Capital B, does he reference K. Rool in one of his Gruntilda-esque chime-ins in the overworld? So the actual quote here, and I wrote it down, is, and this is a quote I think that's like introduced into the game when you get up to the upper levels of Ivory Towers, the outside portions in World 4 and 5, and going towards Capital B's office. He says, "I had a reptile come through here once. Big fangs, obsessed with crystals. Didn't last long."
I mean, who else could that be referring to?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, obviously, crystals. That's more of a Donkey Kong Country cartoon reference, but
the crystal coconut clump. Sorry.
Yeah, don't even. So, I mean, I think maybe like if it said obsessed with bananas, it would have been too on the nose, and so they wanted to like sneak a K. Rool reference in. But I could see this like canonically, since we view this as part of the Donkey Kong universe, we could say this is a reference that K. Rool tried to storm Ivory Towers, and maybe Capital B defeated him, and maybe that's why we haven't seen K. Rool in forever. Because maybe Capital B's like got him in some sort of prison somewhere.
Oh, I like that. I love tying these offhand comments into continuity.
Well,
So
I mean,
I'll have
that's what we do. I mean, and I think it is a reference to K. Rool, and you know, you could say, well, the video game K. Rool is never obsessed with crystals. Well, there are crystal coconuts in Donkey Kong 64, and while K. Rool has never shown any desire for them, we don't know why K. Rool was storming Ivory Towers either. Maybe he was after some sort of crystal.
Actually, I'm trying to think of video game characters. Could it be Croc? Didn't he collect gems?
Oh, I don't know. Let me look. Because the only reason I brought this up as K. Rool is because people have been contacting me. Like this was spoiled for me before I even saw this, because people are like, K. Rool reference, K. Rool reference. You might be right. Let me look this up. Croc, Legend of the Gobos.
Yeah, because that was a 3D platformer. That was more PS1. And then, what did Spyro collect? Because I don't know, he's a dragon. Are dragons reptiles? I mean, dragons aren't real, but are they reptiles?
I mean, I guess they're a form of reptile. They're like medieval dinosaurs. But yeah, I think Spyro collected gems or something.
Yeah. I also kind of think that Yooka and Laylee look like they could be Spyro's parents.
A little bit, yeah. I if you actually merge them together, I never really. So there are crystal orbs in Croc, Legend of the Gobos. So it might be Croc, but
yeah,
it's ambiguous enough that we could also argue it's K. Rool. Croc is not really a thing that you expect to be referenced, just because out of all the 3D platformers from that era, you know.
I have to say, it's a very ambiguous reference, and Rare never do ambiguous.
Yeah, but I think
Sorry.
by the nature of what Playtonic is, they're an independent studio. They've got to be more ambiguous. Like the goldfish in Dr. Puzzle's Bowl, they've got to be more ambiguous with it than they could be if they were Rare, or still Rare.
Especially because it's multi-platform as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, Croc, I mean, you've got obviously Banjo-Kazooie, Crash, and then you've got Spyro, which, you know, has been retained in the popular imagination thanks to Skylanders. But, yeah, you don't really hear much about Croc anymore. You hear more about Gex than you do Croc, in my world, at least.
Maybe I was thinking of Gex. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but Gex doesn't have big fangs, though, so... Anyway, so there's also another slight Donkey Kong reference in Ivory Towers. So near the end of Ivory Towers, that balloon popping KG and a Pagey, you have to fly up the toxic waterfall, and you have to pop those balloons, and they drop letters, golden spinning letters that spell out Pagey. But they're virtually identical to Kong letters. Now, not virtually identical. It's more in the shape of the Playtonic logo, but in general, like design scheme, they're essentially Kong letters. So that felt very much like a nod to Donkey Kong.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Granted, the Playtonic logo is essentially the old Rareware, not Rareware website, but Rareware logo back in the day. So I don't know, but the whole mechanic was very similar to the Kong letters, or at the very least, those bonus levels in Donkey Kong Country where you had to spell out the various things in what were ostensibly Kong letters, but they spelled out different things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, they spelled out different things in DKC 1, didn't they?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like in those bonuses, yeah.
Oh, in those bonuses, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Zoned out for a second.
Moving on from the potential Donkey Kong references, I have to bring this up because this caught my eye/ear. Capital B has a line to Dr. Quack when Yooka-Laylee are standing in front of the elevator or lift, excuse me, to Capital B's office, and Capital B and Dr. Quack are arguing, and Dr. Quack is like being coy, and then Capital B says, and I quote, "Quack, stop winking at me. I'm flattered, but once bitten, twice. Oh yes," and then he breaks away from the thought. So one, Capital B clearly thinks Dr. Quack is coming on to him. And does once bitten suggest they've actually slept together in the past?
I don't think so. I think he's
what
clearly...
does once bitten mean? I mean, it sounds like he's been down this road before.
Well, yeah, it's true. I don't think necessarily with Dr. Quack, but he got burned once in a terrible car crash relationship and he never wants to get hurt again. Once bitten, twice shy and all that. Could have been with Grunty. Oh.
Well, I mean... I think maybe the implication is that it definitely is at least with a coworker or a subordinate or something. So it's
I don't
interesting.
think Capital B would ever allow in workplace relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it makes me wonder is because the only other employees we see in Highbury Towers are the corporates and Vendy. So
is she an employee?
Yeah, she's the Highbury Towers vending machine.
Oh right. It's just she's kind of on the hero's side, so I didn't think she...
Yeah. Well, she asked when she first meets Yooka-Laylee, she asked if they're employees, and they lied to her. So I'm wondering if she used those massive lips for to climb the corporate ladder, so to speak.
Something I think the game was lacking was any kind of like animation of Yooka and Laylee drinking the tonics. It's just odd that a list pops up, you tick it, and it's just, okay, cool, bye, and that's it. Considering how funny like the animations are when Donkey Kong 64, when they all drink a tonic, they could have done just a quick little animation for that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some things lacking, like, for example, when you, not jump ahead, but when you defeat Capital B and he falls... And all of a sudden you cut and you're back in his office and it's just like, wait, did I miss something? But yeah, there are moments where you feel like the game needed like a cutscene or animation or something.
Definitely, yeah. But give him, cut him some slack. It's a pretty ambitious project for an indie title, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't really particularly mind that sort of thing. Maybe they could expand on in Yooka-Laylee.
Yooka-Laylee just sounds like a Cheech and Chong movie. Like, it sounds like they're like Yooka-Laylee are token up in Yooka-Laylee.
I've watched it. Well, I'd
so
for the porn parody, You Can Lay Me.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to Goo-ka-lay me. It doesn't work.
Tip top sweet.
So going through that elevator to Capital B, I was glad that there was one more Dr. Quack quiz. I complained on a previous episode of the Kongversation that there were only two because Dr. Quack says this is the last one, and I was like, wait, there's only two? Because the law of three says there has to be three, or else it's just not a complete set. So I was glad that we got a Quack quiz. I don't know why they had to lie to you though. This tripped me up a little bit though, because there was a lot of, a lot of like of those. Okay, what world was this screenshot from? And they picked some of the trickiest damn screenshots because of stuff that like deceived you on purpose, like a really shadowy part of Tribal Stack Tropics that looks. Oh, and you're like, oh, Moody Maze Marsh, or this part of Moody Maze Marsh that looks kind of sci-fi-y, so you're like, oh yeah, Galleon Galaxy. So tripped
It's
me
like
up
that.
a little bit.
It's like that joke in Pokemon when they show a perfectly round silhouette and they say, "What is this?" And they go, "It's a Voltorb." They go, "No, it's a Jigglypuff seen from above."
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember those.
You remember it?
Yeah, I remember because I did watch the Pokemon anime in the afternoons because it was my free period in my senior year of high school. So I'd come home and have lunch, and Pokemon was on, so I'd put it on, and anyway. Anyway, I like the quack quizzes though, and I like that they were broken up throughout the game rather than just having like one massive explosion of quiz questions at the end of the game. I thought it was a nice compromise between having quizzes but also having it just be the same as Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie.
Yeah, I thought so. I think it was a good idea. My only complaint was I think the first one and possibly the second as well were just a tiny bit too early, and I was faced with this quiz show. It was a nice surprise. It was like, oh, I don't bloody know. I've only just started playing this game. I haven't memorised everybody's hairstyles yet. Or how many, palm trees there were under Tribal Trophy. I just want to play the second level. I think maybe doing it right after the first level was a little bit too early, but at the same time, there are only 5 levels, aren't there? So
they're massive, though. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I wasn't saying the game's lacking in content, because this game took me, 40 hours to complete? I've managed to complete games like Undertale like 3 times in that time.
I really hate speedrunners. They're like, oh, yeah, Yooka-Laylee took me 27 minutes. It's like, oh, well, good for you. Good for you. No, I mean, I take my time with these games, and I love, like, soaking in the detail, but my problem was E3 kind of broke up this game for me, and so by the time I got to the third quack quiz, I was just not remembering the fine details like I should. I really want to. Yeah. I'm gonna replay this game when the patch hits and just essentially like go through it in just like 3 or 4 days. I just want to like play it all in essentially one sitting, and hopefully then it won't be such a fragmented experience like I experienced the first time around. Anyway, yeah, I don't have anything else to add about the quack quizzes. They're fine.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good idea as well, letting you move forward 2 spaces if you answer quickly enough, just to avoid it getting too repetitive.
Yeah,
like rewarding you if you got it right the first time.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very funny, the cutscene just before the final boss fight, where the lift raises, Dr. Quack slightly misses and gets knocked onto his back and is unable to move because he is a head in a jar. And what I've been wondering the whole game is, how did he end up in that state? And also, one of his comments, he says something like, "I can't feel my legs. Oh, that's right, I had them removed." And here's me thinking, why the fuck did he do that? I thought maybe he was in a horrific accident and that's why he's in this state, but it sounds like he's deliberately chosen to do that to himself.
Well, partnering with Dr. Puzz. Dr. Puzz also experimented on herself, and she's a hideous mutant now. So I think there's just a great deal of self-abuse and experimentation going on with those two. And Dr. Quack is just a floating head in a jar, while Dr. Puzz is a hideous mutant. And
my theory as to Dr. Quack is perhaps he's hundreds of years old and he's managed to keep himself alive in this state by basically pickling his head in a jar.
Well, I mean, that would make more sense than Cripplespack and Conquer, where we don't really know. Can I still say his name, or is it too offensive in 2017? Well, that's his name. Actually, I mean,
I think it's fine. I mean, I it's never actually said out loud in game, is it?
He's just the professor in Conquer, like in-game dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to complain. So I have more to say. What was it?
Well, like capital B. I really came around to him as a villain. I like that he's essentially just he's not magical. He's not some sort of like crazy villain who like is royalty or practices witchcraft. He's just a businessman, and that's that. Like there's no real a larger purpose to his motives other than to do his job and profit. And I like it. It was refreshing because in all of these rare games, we've had K. Rool, who's royalty, and he's a madman. We've had Gruntilda, who's a witch and a madwoman. We've had the Professor and mad scientist. We've had mad, insane pedophiles. We've had, there's
I just quite like it's quite. Sorry.
No, he's relatively mundane. He's not insane. He's just a guy who is a capitalist, and that's kind of shitty. It's a good villain for 2017. I'll say that much.
It's the kind of villain you love to hate because it's, just like people who chase after money. We all know dickheads like that. And also, I think DKVine.com/Patreon. Yeah, and also, like corporate meddling is what resulted in Nuts and Bolts happening, and indeed Yooka-Laylee eventually happening as well. It's just a very despicable villain type.
I think it's a misnomer that corporate meddling was responsible for Nuts and Bolts. I think it's mostly come out now that it wasn't. It was just them not wanting to do Banjo 3. It was really? Basically just it was. Nuts and Bolts was essentially, I think it was an urban legend that it was corporate meddling. But at the same time, it was just, I think Nuts and Bolts was a game that came out a couple of years too early, and
it's a fantastic game. I'm actually replaying it right now. Not literally right now, but next time I'm at the Xbox,
I think it was mostly just Greg Mayles not wanting to do Banjo 3 because he had no more ideas for a Banjo game, but the public was demanding a Banjo sequel, so they attempted to compromise. And what got us was the way the game was initially promoted. There was that bait and switch, and had it not been for that, I think it would have been better received. But anyway, that's besides the point. So
anyway, a point I kind of wanted to make was, it kind of felt this way on my first playthrough, but the thing about a lot of video games, I think, is the first playthrough is always completely different to any other playthrough. Something I felt we didn't really get to know Capital B very well, especially compared to Gruntilda. Like, we quite literally knew her whole life story by the end of the game.
Well, we had the Gruntilda clues, that definitely helped flesh Gruntilda out, so to speak.
Yeah, they shouldn't have just directly copied that. That would have been a bit too, on the nose. But I think maybe we should have somehow found out a bit about Capital B and his life, his motivations, his story a bit. And just, like, one or two maybe disgusting facts about his filthy habits and things.
Yeah. Well, I think we definitely learned more about Capital B in the actual, like, cutscenes and game plot than we ever did Gruntilda. Gruntilda we knew so much about because of the Gruntilda clues. And I don't know, like you said, how we would get that in this game without just being a direct copy. Because there were enough Banjo-Kazooie XPs in this game. Just like, Dr. Puzz was Mumbo, Trouser was Bottles, Vendy was Cheeto. I feel like we know Capital B enough that it's. I don't really know what else we'll know about him, especially at the end. We had a minor revelation about him that it's. I'm content with Capital B, and maybe I'm just saying this too because there was so much consultation and worry about the story going into Yooka-Laylee, and you're kind of off the grid. I don't know how much you know about this, but it's so much worry that the story was an analogy for Rare and Microsoft. And, and there was a lot of there was a lot of fear that this was just going to be slagging off like the modern day Rare, and being that we're fans of both Rare and Playtonic, we really didn't want that. So I'm glad almost that we did get an absence of that kind of fill in the blanks biography stuff, because maybe that would have invited more comparisons. And we'll get into the story later on in this episode. But
you've enlightened me now. I'm sorry about the things I said there. I didn't no.
No.
Any of the stuff you just told me.
I mean, Platonic has denied that was the intent with the story. But we're still going to look into it. I mean, it's one of those things you can't help but make that comparison. And then once that comparison is made, you can't help but start seeing it, like, fill in the blanks here. And ultimately, we didn't get much of that beyond the backstory in the game. So it really wasn't a big deal. But
yeah, well, like I said, that was my first playthrough of the game, and I just felt, I'm 20 hours in now. Where's the bad guy? All I've seen is he keeps popping up in the hub and saying, "Sheila, cancel my appointment." It's just. I thought.
Sheila,
I swear Grunty had. Yeah, I swear Grunty had like 100 different things she said. It's just the same 2 comments over and over again. Now that you've just like casually revealed to me that it depends on which area of the factory you're in, what he says. Yeah, I think when I replay it, I'll probably feel like he has a much greater presence, because like, I do like that he shows up in Capital Casino as the BPA, the banker. Yeah. That's really nice. It reminded me a lot of Madame Grunty's tent. But I think there should have been a lot more of, like, when you get a tricky pagey, he should have popped up and said, "Grr, you pesky vending machine, I'm gonna," rather than the vending machine saying, he's gonna turn me into, rather than the, what was it, the one-armed bandit thing saying, he's gonna turn me into a vending machine, and not the kind that sells food either. That's a funny line, but I feel like it should have been Capital B himself that pops up and makes that threat.
Yeah,
how Grunty would say, "Lock up, you've given away my jiggy, that's it, I'm going to have you sent to the bottom of the ocean," or whatever.
Oh, wait, was that a condom dispenser joke?
Yes, I love that joke.
Or a feminine hygiene product or something? Yeah, okay.
Even worse. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant gag.
That went over my head, because I was thinking Vendy at first, and okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. It's midway. I realised I'd said it wrong, so I tried to correct myself midway through, but... Yeah, that's it. I was taking a screenshot every time I saw a reference to Banjo-Kazooie or a sex joke. But once I realised that this was happening every 5 seconds, I just gave up.
Yeah, no, so was I.
Yeah.
We did see more of Capital B than we saw Grunty and Banjo-Tooie, I think. Besides, like, Madame Grunty. Like, because they pretty much ended the cutscenes early in Banjo-Tooie, and there was the whole, like, not Blastomatic, the big old blaster, and they kind of just like lost the thread of that plot, even though it was a doomsday life force sucking machine. It was just like, okay. And then you didn't really see Grunty until the end of the game then. So I felt like Capital B had a bigger presence than that.
Yeah. I felt like, but I kind of felt the opposite. In Banjo-Tooie, Grunty would pop up to give you the rules of the mini games, and she'd get pissed off when you beat them, and there wasn't really any of that from Capital B.
Yeah,
apart from him popping up at the casino.
But I love him in the casino. I was a little initially skeptical about that, because I was like this could just be its own character. But the longer it went on, just the more absurd it got. I still want my last pagey, you fucker, though. You're holding that from me. Well, let's talk about the Capital B fight, the final boss fight in the game. And what did you think?
It was very hard and very long, lads. It reminded me a hell of a lot of, well, obviously, of Gruntilda and K. Rool in Donkey Kong 64, because every time you die, you had to start from the very beginning with no checkpoint. Actually, every K. Rool fight is like that.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating, I felt, because the first part of the battle is just very, very easy, so it didn't feel like I was being challenged. I just got really bored. I was like, oh, not this bloody bit again. I think what bugged me about the very start of the battle is that he just has one attack, and he does that over and over. And I was beating the shit out of him, but I was thinking, my attack must not be working then, because nothing's happening. And it was only after 5 cycles, and then something changed. I was like, oh, it is working. Okay. I felt they should have made more of a point that he's getting hit. Again, like Grunty in Banjo-Tooie at least would scream and go, "Ah, you've hit me, you bastard, ah!" And there wasn't any of that, any indication that my attacks were even doing any damage. It just felt padded out, I think.
Yeah, I generally like this fight, but it did. And I have this qualm, I think, with the retro boss fights in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. They just, and Returns for that matter, they just go on and on and on, and they're fun. God, yeah. They're fun, but at a certain point, you're just like, okay. And you die in the last bit, and then you have to just do the whole thing over again.
The whole thing, yeah.
It's just one of those things where okay, you like you said about card toss, you just get better at it, and it's one of those things.
Card toss and those are hard all the way through. There isn't like a beginning bit that goes on and on and on and is so dull.
True. Yeah. It would be nice if like you could like have checkpoints in the boss fight.
Yeah, definitely.
But
or at least a couple of butterflies to restore health.
Yes.
Yeah.
I liked though that the exposition before the fight that Capital B actually wanted them to succeed as far as like getting to him, because you're essentially just delivering all the pages to him, and that made complete sense within the game's logic, which I appreciated from a writing standpoint, that it wasn't just like overlooking the fact that Capital B didn't like scatter these pages throughout the worlds for you, like as a diversionary tactic. He wanted these pages, and you were essentially doing his job for him. So I like that little twist that, oh no, he was actually wanting you to succeed the whole time, which puts things like Capital Casino into a new context, like why he would willingly hand over pages.
Oh yeah, that's true. It made more sense than Grunty and the Jiggies, which didn't really have anything to do with each other at all, that she was still going to use that machine on Tooty no matter how many Jiggies had. In fact, what was stopping her just doing it at the start of the game?
Yeah, I think where Yooka-Laylee really succeeds as far as plot goes is it takes all the weird little things from Banjo-Kazooie that kind of fall apart when you look too hard at them and come up with logical reasons for them.
Yeah, like Grunty is only the second fairest in the land.
Right.
Kazooie is apparently not as attractive as... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, what about Humba Wumba? Like, what is like the land as far as the cauldron goes? Like,
I know.
Like, does it just mean Spiral Mountain? Because okay, but there's still Brentilda. Like,
yeah, that's true. Still Melanie.
Yeah. Anyway,
one thing that disappointed me, there was no terrifying / depressing game over screen like there usually is in these games. It would have been nice to see the effects of the one book rewriting the universe, like he said was okay. That'll be a bit difficult to depict. I don't know. They could just kind of show Shipwreck Creek like overrun by corplets. And
that would be boring. If you could rewrite the laws of reality, you would just send more henchmen out. Like,
well, no, it'd be like a massive corporate, like it would be like a horrible, greasy, grubby city, basically. Or big skyscrapers around the batship crazy, and I don't know. Ladies have to become a hooker.
I would expect something a little bit more Lovecraftian than that, like the whole world like becoming Capital B's head or something. Like I don't know, like just some sort of existential horror of rewriting like reality itself. Honestly, though, game over screens are kind of a thing of the past, and while Yooka-Laylee was a throwback in a lot of ways, I think having a game over screen in a 3D platform. I mean, Banjo-Tooie didn't really have a game over screen. It just had the game over.
Yeah,
and I think I know Super Mario Odyssey isn't going to have game over. So I feel like to keep pace with modern
have they finally
games,
done away with lives in Mario Odyssey?
I believe according to Nintendo, yeah.
Hooray! They've been useless for about 10 years at least, haven't they?
Well, they were useless in Banjo-Kazooie, to be perfectly honest. I mean,
they were very useless, yeah.
They were just there for the sense of this is a video game and you have lives in video games.
Yeah.
Banjo-Tooie did away with them. And so I feel like Yooka-Laylee, while it was a very conscious throwback in a lot of ways, they also had to kind of keep one eye on the present and be like, yeah, we don't really need to bring that back.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. It would have been cool to see, but it would have gotten very old every time you died. And then you would have had to have lives. And I mean, I don't know. You wouldn't have had to have lives, but every time you lost all like your health, then you would have seen the game over screen. It's better they didn't have it, I think. But
I kind of thought it just be so that you see when you select save and exit.
True. That's true. That's true. I guess that's
on Donkey Kong 64 did it like that way.
Yeah. Although, it would have been nice maybe to have that be. There was no sense of immediate urgency when you fought Capital B. It would have been nice if maybe he did get the pages from you and he started to rewrite the laws of reality and things are like changing around you. And maybe that could have been. I mean, but we're essentially just, to use an American term, Monday morning quarterbacking here, where we're just like looking at the American football game and saying, well, this is the way it should have been played. I mean, honestly, like we can do that all night, but I was essentially fine with the way the Capital B fight played out. I liked that. Well, honestly, I wanted to fight him in his office. I didn't like that we had to go into a separate room. I thought it would have been unique to have this fight in his office. Like the Baron von Ghoul fight and Grab by the Ghoulies was in his bedroom, and that was weird. And I wanted a weird fight where you had this fight.
Given with the paedophile implications of Baron von Ghoul.
Yeah, although I don't know if he ever did anything with the kids in his bedroom. He'd like to lock them up in like the freezer and just like keep them on shelves around the mansion. And again, I don't know if he actually ever touched the kids. The game is purposely vague about that.
I should bloody hope so.
He never. Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's an E-rated game, and even then, good taste dictate that maybe we shouldn't have him actually molesting the children. But I hope the implication is that Cooper and Amber bust this shit up before he actually has a chance to have his way with the children. But anyway. Yeah, I wanted to fight him in the office because I thought, like, what a mundane setting for such a fan. And that would have been cool to then maybe have the one book change the office into this, like, nightmarish kind of world within.
I think the plot is basically, as it is in 3D platforms, an excuse. You know, oh, I've lost my book, go and get the book back. I quite liked the dialogue saying, you know, I'm going to rewrite the universe of the book, but it would have been really nice to just have that depicted a little bit. Just a bit, see the potential. Maybe, again, that's something they could touch on in Yooka-Laylee.
Right. Yeah. That you did go up into a separate room. Capital B called it his personal pulverization chamber, but I initially read it as personal perversion chamber. And it took me like half a second before I realized what it actually said, but I was picturing like an S&M dungeon or something.
The
I thought it was
dungeon. Callback.
Yeah. Check it out. xboydungeon.com.
I really liked the arena, and it was a nice surprise that it changed. And it was very Bowser and Super Mario 64. I thought how the platform gets smaller and smaller
at the end.
Fight.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Well, let's go over. I did like the joke that it was just the stationary cupboard. That was a decent enough gag but it didn't really look anything like where you would just like a supplies closet. It was much more grand than that. I appreciated the joke though. You know, this is just me being overly nitpicky at this point.
Yeah, it's like Bender's closet in Futurama, and it's, you know, the size of an apartment. right. I'll just live in here. Yeah.
So let's go over the points of the fight beat by beat. So he uses a Vendy tonic that was not on the menu to grow in size, but I was expecting him to I really wanted him to turn into some sort of monster here or something. And I was surprised all he did was just grow a couple feet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, actually. It's like it reminded me a lot of Klungo and Tui, actually. It's like, wow, I'm going to be really, really huge. It's like a slight, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I understand you want to really keep him as capital B because this is the figure you've been taunting the player with throughout the whole game. So to really mutate him would kind of deprive you of kicking his ass as you've known him throughout this entire time. But I don't know. They could have like used the tonic throughout the boss fight. He could have changed or something. And again, this is just me like saying after the fact, well, you could have done this, you could have done this. The mechanics of the boss fight were essentially fine. It might have gone on too long, but it wasn't really any different or worse than one of the Gruntilda fights in the first two Banjo games.
Or Crusher, K. Rool, Donkey Kong 64. Yeah, just had lots of different phases.
it wasn't quite as varied as the Crusher K. Rool fight, but it also wasn't. It didn't feel as long as the Crusher K. Rool fight either. And maybe that was just because there was less variety to it, less major set pieces.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I like that he threw beehives at you, and that you would have the bee swarms coming at you.
Yeah,
I like that they actually incorporated some of his bee-ness into the boss fight. Like he actually used his wings, which I wasn't really expecting. I forgot that this guy is a bee, and he has wings on his character, and he could probably fly. I liked that, because you don't really think of him as a bee that much. He looks like a character from Despicable Me in his renders. Not in his animation so much. You kind of forget about it when he's animated, but in those renders, he definitely looks like one of those. What is the studio? Blue Sky, or I don't know, but
I don't know.
Whoever makes the Minion films, he looks like he's a character from those in the renders, and you forget, oh no, he's a bee. And I liked that when that came into play, a lot of his character really just gelled for me as far as, okay, he's a bee and he throws beehives at you, and later on he launches missile stingers at you. It was cool.
Yeah, one thing I kind of noticed, I don't know if it's intentional, but in Banjo, the hero had the honeycombs motif.
Yeah.
And the bad guy had the green and purple colours motif. And then this gets the other way around.
It's really bad because, DK Vine uses these affiliation icons, and we've incorporated a lot of that into some of our design. And we have the honeycomb design for Banjo, but now people are going to see that and think it's for Ivory Towers. So we're going to have to look at that.
We could just stick an H on the Ivory Towers one and googly eyes on the Banjo one.
True. Yeah. Fair enough. I like that you knock him off his feet, and then basically you just assault him in his crotch. That's essentially the way you bring him down, is punching him in his nads or nards. And he even comments on it. It's not just like, oh, that's where it looks like you're fighting him. He makes a point of saying, hey, you're hitting me in my, what does he call them, his shares or something? Or his socks or something? Yeah, something like that. But I like that, and they were explicit about it. No, you're punching him in his bee genitalia. So, after you pummel him in the crotch a bit, he has Dr. Quack send corplets up. And then that's when he starts throwing explosive hives at you. I like the bit where he tells Dr. Quack not to mix up the ammo with the corplets, and but he does, and that's how you get the frost berries. That's
just typical video game boss accidentally putting the thing that kills them in the arena.
But in typical Rare style, Platonic really just kind of puts a lampshade on it, as we say, and really just that's what happens, because the characters are stupid, and but if we point it out, then it's smart. But I like that. I like that kind of shit, because the great thing about the Rare style of humor is that it points out how ridiculous video games are. Yeah. And it kind of celebrates that and makes that part of the fabric of the universe they inhabit. So the fact that Yooka-Laylee is full of that kind of shit. And, Andy Robinson wrote the story to this. Take a drink, by the way. I said his name.
Andy Robinson. Oh,
okay. Sorry, I know you're very dry and chafed right now, Joe. I shouldn't be wetting myself in front of you.
I'd cry, but I don't think I can spare the moisture.
No, Andy Robinson did a great job. Like, initially, when I was playing Yooka-Laylee, there were some jokes that went over my head because I think they were so British that they didn't translate over the Atlantic. But as the game went on, it just became so true to the Rare ethos that I forgot it wasn't, say, Lee Loveday or Chris Alcock writing this.
Yeah.
So he did a great job. He did a great job.
Definitely, like the World 3 boss is a northerner, basically going, "Hey up,
Yeah.
I'm having me brew. You're interrupting me soaps." And I was thinking, I played it. I thought Americans aren't going to understand a word of that.
I understood more of the, like, later on, I understood more of that stuff than you would anticipate. Like, I knew the one shopping cart was supposed to be a chav. Is that what they're called?
Chav.
Yeah. So, and we don't have that over here, but I know the reference, so, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like that. That's how you get the Frostberries into the fight. Dr. Quack accidentally sends them up, and Capital B knew he was going to do it, and he did it anyway. And then when Capital B calls for Quack to activate the wall and roof lasers, and I was really worried about this too, because I thought we were going to have to use the camo cloak and refract the laser beams at Capital B, and I hated that because I know they're fixing this in the patch, but you had to crouch to use the
they've
camo
already
cloak.
fixed that.
Yeah. So, and I was like, oh fuck, because I don't have the patch on the Xbox One version yet. I'm gonna have to crouch, and it's so imprecise, and it drains your energy bar so fast. And I'm glad there's the bait and switch there, where Dr. Quack accidentally just causes the walls in the roof to fall off, and then you're at the top of the Ivory Tower's tower, and then you're surrounded by the toxic sludge. And this is where it does become a little bit more Bowser-y in Super Mario 64, like you said.
Yeah, very, very much so.
And Capital B starts, I guess, butt slamming, and I like that where you can then attack him is when he accidentally lands on his feet, and then he's just like stunned, and then you can. That was very very clear visual language that they used, and it really helped. Like, oh, okay, it's clever, and it uses logic to really convey now you can attack him. Of course, Capital B does outright say, "Ooh, I botched that landing," or whatever he says. But then this is where the boss fight really starts getting rough, because and by rough I'm being challenging, because he's got the combination of the exploding hives and the regular hives with the bee swarms chasing you, and then his various butt slams cause different shockwaves coming at you in different directions. And if
this is where it starts to get tough, I think.
Yes, and then he takes to the sky, and that's when he launches. First, I thought it was a beehive like missile, but then I realized, oh wait, he's launching stingers at you. That's clever.
Yeah.
And so these are heat-seeking missile stingers, and you have to fly. I guess there's a way to do this without flying, but that's the most, I think, logical way to go about it, is to fly.
I quite liked this part of the battle. I mean, I was very tense because it's right at the end. I was like, oh god. I had like one bit of health left and one butterfly left. I was just like, I can't fuck this up. But yeah, I felt it was just really fun. I quite like the flying in this game in general, really. I think it was really quite bold of them to just allow you to fly anywhere without needing a pad.
And I'll try to touch upon that before the episode's out, because I've heard conflicting feelings from fans about the flying mechanics in this game. I quite like it too, and I feel like it really opened up the game once you could fly. And
but maybe want to go back at 100% on the past levels.
Yes. Yeah. And once you got the hang of it, it was a lot more precise. When I first could fly, it felt very like herky-jerky and floaty, but it was just me not having the hang of it, me expecting Banjo-Kazooie controls, I think.
Yeah,
and once I got the hang of what to do, it was one of the most intuitive feelings in the whole game.
And
But
the green and purple patches just added a feature where if you press down, they descend very quickly.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to basically ground pound or lose health in order to land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, by the time he launches the 3 stingers at once, this is the really difficult part.
Yeah.
And he's flying. He's also flying around clockwise around the battlefield. So you've got 3 stingers coming at you, and he's flying around. So you have to like line up And then you've got to like be watching your energy bar because your flight's gonna run out. And this was hard. And
I feel like the end of the fight, the second half of the fight is very merciless. It doesn't give you much time to relax or take in what's happening, think about things, or recharge, energy or health or anything. It would be nice to have just a little bit of a break now and then to take it all in.
Yeah. I mean, the Gruntilda fights were pretty rough too, but they did break it up with a lot more dialogue and cutscenes, and like Grunny seeing like one part of her plan fall through, so she regroups, and you kind of have like those breaks, and that was mostly conveyed with dialogue this time around, like in-game dialogue. So you didn't really have that. Okay, breathe. You could always pause it, I guess, but then that kind of takes you out of the moment.
All I kind of meant was like time to recharge the energy.
Yeah, I know,
once you've
absolutely.
run out of energy, you're kind of screwed running around on the ground trying to outrun the missiles, and then it takes time to crouch and then fly up again, and you don't have enough time to do that without getting hit again, and
and any other moves you could use to really evade that stuff would use energy, and you're trying to preserve that energy for the flight. Yeah. Anyway, so eventually, though, he gets hit with a last stinger and he's defeated. And he just kind of falls to the ground, and then you cut and he's laying in a heap in his office. I would like to have at least seen him like fall down the elevator shaft or something.
Things might have been yet another, maybe a bit too similar to Banjo-Kazooie, where Grunty fell off the tower. At least they didn't do the Ghostwriter Nater.
The Ghostwriters didn't come back into it at all. I was expecting them to like be fleshed out a little bit more like near the end.
When I first heard of them, I thought they were going to be really important to the story. They're the ones that wrote these books, where the game takes place. So I thought they were going to have some relevance to the story, and they were just a collectible in the end.
Yeah, it would have made more sense for the Ghostwriters to appear at the end and drag Capital B into this book versus who actually did it. But let's talk about the ending. So first, Capital B is laying on a heap on the office floor, and then like Dr. Quack has composed himself, and he's been a fuck up this entire boss fight. But then he's like admonishing Capital B, and I thought we were going to have, in pro wrestling parlance, a face turn, because I was expecting Dr. Quack to like say, fuck you, I should have never joined forces with you. But actually, Dr. Quack is like, I'm going to report to the board on your poor performance. And we find out that that's his true job, is actually basically being, I guess, the corporate spy for the board to break everything down in bullet points and send it to the board on how Capital B is doing. So, and apparently the board that Capital B reports to is an evil conglomerate called Vile, Vile, all capital, similar to like Chaos in Get Smart, or Spectre in James Bond,
or Chaos in Donkey Kong Country 3.
Well, I mean, chaos is spelled the same way, but yeah, that's the big question we had coming out of our Donkey Kong Country 3 20th anniversary celebrations was, wait, is chaos actually supposed to stand for something? Because it's all caps, like it's supposed to be like Kremlin something operating system. Yeah. So yeah, Vile is this like group of supervillains that's the board that Capital B essentially works for. So I'm glad that like there's a question mark about this, and so Yooka-Laylee were prepared to find out more about Vile. Like they were going to like kick around Capital B some more to get some answers. But then Blasto, the cannon from Shipwreck Creek, comes in thinking that Capital B's office is the first aid room. And he's complaining that he still has something in his throat, but it's not a Pagey this time, it's a cannonball. And he sends a cannonball into Capital B, knocking both him and Dr. Quack into another book, and the book closes.
That's right. As Cranky Kong once said, you call that an ending? Sounds like a cheap stunt setting up the stage for the sequel. I think with an ending like that, they've definitely got a sequel planned.
Well, of course they do. I mean,
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie had the sequel planned and promised grand riches in the sequel, and bit off more than it could chew with what it was promising in the end. But
Yeah, absolutely.
I did want to point out, though, I did want to point out that the book Capital B and Dr. Quack wind up in, it has the same markings as Tribal Stack Tropics, but it's not Tribal Stack Tropics. So, like, where are they? Like, is this in universe? Is this like a book that was the sequel to Tribal Stack Tropics? And why can't?
Maybe could they be reusing the resources? Nah.
No, come on. But why can't they just get out of the Grand Tome that they're stuck in? Because we've seen that there's exits from all the Grand Tomes that we've been into thus far. So why are they trapped? Or maybe because the book closes. Well, no, that doesn't make sense because all the books close and then they open as you approach them. So why are they trapped? That's the question I have. At first, I thought they were supposed to be like trapped in the Grand Tome, or not the Grand Tome, but the one book.
Maybe in Yooka-Laylee, I think it'd be hilarious if like 2 years later they're still stuck in the book. Then they find the exit and realize they could just pop out anytime.
I would be okay with that kind of idiocy. That's the kind of shit that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
So long as it's explained in world, I'm fine with it.
I would also like. I don't know if it's going to happen. It'd also be interesting to see if they get new forms, because what I really love about Grunty is just how every time we see her, she's just more and more decayed and destroyed. It's something I really like what they do with villains in general. If you're going to have a recurring villain, have them just get more and more hideously deformed by all the times that the heroes have kicked their ass. And I'd like to see,
Perhaps Capital B has severe stomach issues since that cannonball hit him square in the gut. And I don't know, he has to wear a diaper now. So then following the scene with Blasto, by the way, I find it funny that Blasto, this very blatant Banjo-Kazooie joke, it comes back into play at the end of the game. So the celebration then in Shipwreck Creek, very, very much in tune with Diddy Kong Racing's ending a little bit. I liked that nearly every friendly character or mindless idiot who asks for your help from across the 5 worlds is there, including Shell, the Knights of Hamelot, and even Shovel Knight. I was surprised to see Shovel Knight there, considering he's not even a platonic character.
Which one's Shell?
Shell is the Jet Force Gemini lady from Galleon Galaxy. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that nearly everybody was there, and I like that the Glitter Glaze Glacier snowmen were staying cold underneath Nimbo, who was snowing for them. That was a really clever bit. That how can they be in this like tropical environment? Oh, Nimbo.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's quite a staple. Video games do that a lot, to have all the characters from the game, just because it's quite cheap and easy to dump them all into one location.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not something we'd seen like with the Banjo-Kazooie. We didn't see like all of these characters. We saw like Banjo and Kazooie lounging on the beach, and then Mumbo, and then
we did see them, but all individually. And I'm glad they didn't do it that way, because it took forever, and it was before the end boss fight, so it didn't feel like we'd earned anything, because we still had to beat the game yet. You know, being shown all the characters one by one. It just took forever.
I do like a good character parade, and I feel like there were less characters in this that a character parade would have been brief. But this was cool, and I like that like literally everybody was there. I don't know if it was literally everybody. I tried to take a head count, but you even had the slop bandits from Capital Casino, so it was pretty comprehensive. And I thought it was a funny bit where Dr. Puzz viewed Blasto as the true hero of the story. Like everybody was like, "Here's the Blasto."
In Blasto we trust.
Yeah. But I was surprised then, like they cut to the one book, like people like they were around the one book, and then we got the end credits, and there's nothing after that.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like there should have been a true ending, as they call it now in these days, for 100% completion. Just a little something at the end, like even something stupid like the outtakes and Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah. And like there are things like the pirate treasure that like you thought like is this like building up to some sort of stop and swap scenario, but there's no further context for that. So
Yeah,
it felt like there's too much left hanging maybe. Now granted, I was happy to get the end credits because I'm in the end credits since I was a Kickstarter backer. So it's like, oh yeah, my name's there. So I was momentarily distracted from all of these criticisms.
Yeah, it's only when I got to that bit that I realised just how many backers there are. It's amazing. Just I was sitting there and it's like 10 minutes later and it's still all the errands. I was like, oh my god.
You're right, so many errands.
Yeah. I was going to say, what was I going to say? Bugger, I've lost my... What do you think? What would you think if there's a stop and swap kind of thing coming up for, presumably for Yooka-Laylee? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I would be fine with it. I hope it does more than Stop and Swap ever did with Banjo-Kazooie. And I don't just mean like the loss of it from Banjo-Kazooie to Tooie, but even with the Xbox Live Arcade versions, it always just felt like kind of a cheaper than the grandeur suggested initially in 1998. Like, I would want like another world in the original Yooka-Laylee just for the hell of it. You know, I would want something ridiculous. But
that's
like
less
that.
of a novelty now in the world of DLC and patches. They can quite easily do that, can't they?
That's true. I mean, and I think no matter what you do, Stop and Swap will feel less special than initially promised because the reason it was such a huge deal was these were physical cartridges that, you know, like how is this going to happen? This is amazing. They were more like contained, and now everything's just like nebulous, floating around in a digital data, and I want some sort of Stop and Swap spiritual successor, but at the same time, I think maybe it's never going to be as special as we dreamed in our childhoods.
Yeah. The only other thing I'm thinking is, I'm probably just talking out of my arse at this point. Pirate treasure could be some kind of connection to Sea of Thieves, maybe?
I mean, yeah, that would be a really, really impressive long game that Playtonic has been planning this with Rare, and I very much doubt that's the case. Maybe, I mean, you know, maybe the Mails brothers are like going behind everybody's back, and they're like, tee but I don't know. It is amusing though, and I know I brought this up before, that there is so much focus on pirates in this game, and that, you know, even though this isn't Rare, the spirit and the same sense of this is what we like is still very much retained.
Oh, I've just remembered what the thing was I was going to mention. Have you heard of the character in, what's it called, the Galleon Galaxy? Apparently, before one of the patches, they said something like 25%. Now, since the patch has come out, they say nearly ready, 50%.
Yeah, that's inept from the toy box.
Ah, yes. So perhaps it's almost certainly to do with that, I imagine.
Yes. Had you listened to the more recent conversations, you'll know somebody's already called in and brought that up, Joe. But I'm sorry. No,
I failed you.
They're definitely counting down to something, which makes me feel like there's going to be DLC of some sort.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get to some calls, Joe. A few people have called in to give their thoughts about the end of Yooka-Laylee, and then we'll get into our overall thoughts on the game itself, and with one eye on the future. So let's hear the first call.
Okay.
Hey guys, it's Ethan, aka Bay on the Bear, and this is my second take for this, so hopefully you can play this one. But anyways, I've been waiting a month to share this ukulele here. I wanted to wait for the final wrap-up episode, so here we go. So, outside the door to the final boss, Yooka-Laylee can do a little chat with Dr. Quack and Capital B. So which, there's one point where Dr. Quack talks about how many pages you have and how they should let you up. So basically what he starts with capital B, to which capital B replies with essentially, Quack, I'm flattered, but once bitten, twice shy. So, and then he just kind of rubs it off. Anyways, like, when I first played Yooka-Laylee, like, I just stuck with this little joke, but the more I heard it, like, with every playthrough I did, because I'm going to be honest, I played this game a lot, basically I started to wonder, is capital B homosexual? And furthermore, were him and Dr. Quack in a relationship prior to Yooka-Laylee? I think there might be some evidence to cover it up, like, primarily I remember during Valentine's Day when Platonic posted a little gif of capital B and Dr. Quack having a little romantic dinner. But anyway, I want to ask your thoughts about this. Do you think capital B and Quack were once in a relationship? Do you think capital B is homosexual? And most importantly, is this all leading up to one of the most epic jokes about the birds and the bees we've ever heard? Anyway, thanks guys, and again, hope this is the one you play, because the other one I just kind of hung up. Okay, bye!
Well, it's
We've
funny.
kind of touched on that. Yeah.
Yeah. During the episode when we brought this up, in the Twitch live stream, Cameron Regal, DK Vine staffer and frequent Kongversation host, linked to this tweet, and I completely forgotten about this. And it's not something that's in the game itself. It's something they actually animated just, I guess, for Valentine's Day. And it's capital B and Dr. Quack at a table with capital B like holding red wine, and there's flowers between them, and it says, "Will you be our Valentine?" Hashtag Yooka-Laylee. So I don't know.
I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. Sorry.
Like I said, I don't know if they were actually in a relationship. Maybe they actually they got drunk and slept together one like on a corporate retreat or something. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I've really got the giggles about this.
I mean, it's with that nose, with capital B's nose. What could he do with that nose, Joe?
What could Dr. Quack do, full stop? He's a friggin' head in a gum dispenser.
Yeah. Well, I guess
he's got a slot, I suppose.
Yeah, you've got the slot. I'm
just imagining, like, ew, 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 ew. I wish I knew how to quit you, Dr. Quack. That's just the noise he's making during the act.
I think capital B sexuality is purposely ambiguous here. And it could just be, a complete, these corporate types, they get off on dominance, and it could have just been, that type of situation. I don't know.
It turns out capital B thought he was the boss, but Dr. Quack's just reviewing his performance.
In bullet points.
He's a real power bottom.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
By the way, this call, he's Ban Bear on Twitter, and so Ban Bear's been every Yooka-Laylee centric conversation that's gone up. He said, I can't wait for the wrap up episode or the episode where we talk about the end of the game, because I have a theory. I had no idea your theory was capital B and Dr. Quack like the fuck. So that's a twist I didn't see coming, but I'm glad you finally got to share it with the world. Thanks for the call. Let's hear what our next...
I ship it. Quack to... I need to come up with something. Everyone come up with a funny couple's name and call in the next episode with your funny couple's name for Dr. Quack and capital B.
All right, let's hear what the next caller has to say.
Hi, DK Vine Hotline. This is Unaverage Joe. No relation to Karate Joe. First time listener, long time caller. No, wait, reverse that. So I read this is the final episode of final thoughts episode of Yooka-Laylee. Just want to give in my 2 cents, as well as propose something else about Yooka-Laylee and the broader DKU universe. I loved Yooka-Laylee. It's one of the better games in my recent memory. Not the second coming of open world platforming collectathons, but it's still a solid game. You know, I'll give it like an A minus. That being said, I can't wait to see what Platonic has in store for us next. Now they've shaken the rust off of doing open world platforming games. So my second topic is about Shell. You know, the interplanetary assassin badass from World 5. You know, the one that started a war with the amphibians by herself. I think it's fair this is an homage to Jet Force Gemini, but I think I can do you one better. Not only is she artistically very similar to that game, even to the point where some people thought she was a grown-up Bella, she even has a line that's really odd, saying something along the lines of, "We make a great space force to be reckoned with." Then I remember that these developers, you know, Rare, Platonic, they like to make these cheeky copyright dodging names for these people. So I would say that they were actually trying to say that she's a part of the Jet Force Gemini crew. She's an unseen member. Much like kind of how you know, that reference is basically just a stone's throw away from saying Schmet for Schmemini. So I just want to get your thoughts on it. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep up the good work and bring back the spiders.
Thank you for the call. I do believe he just called in right after that with another quick thought. So let's hear that call.
Call number 3, okay.
Yes.
Hey, it's Unaverage Joe again. I just wanted to call and let you know what the point I was trying to make before I got cut off was, so now that she is, or I believe that she is part of the Jet Force Gemini crew, maybe like an unseen force, like Jet Force, I don't know, Capricorn. I was wondering if that can retroactively make Jet Force Gemini a part of the DKU. So, this one, I mean, she's an original character, and she kind of dodges all the rules that I know of. Maybe I missed one. You guys know better than I do. So, yeah, what do you think? Like I said, keep up the good work, and bring back the spiders.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Unaverage Joe. So many Joes this week.
I hate him. I don't like him.
No, always great to hear from first-time callers, long-time listeners. Well, to get to your last point real quick, no, it wouldn't make Jet Force Gemini Donkey Kong Universe because, again, it doesn't have an origin point in the Donkey Kong universe. The character Shell can be DKU, but even if she has a kind of copyright skirting wink connection to the original Jet Force Gemini game, much like this goldfish in Dr. Puzz's bowl is a wink nod to Royston. It still couldn't go back in time and make Jet Force what part of the Donkey Kong universe. Now, Jet Force Gemini can exist and does exist in the same shared universe, but again, nearly every video game in existence exists in the same shared universe, thanks to all the various crossovers and whatnot we have over the years. I mean, if we were to be honest about all of this, we would have to cover Mario and Pac-Man, and so we have to have draw a line somewhere, and unfortunately some rare titles don't make the cut, and Jet Force is one of them.
I feel like Jet Force, of all the games that are not DK, I think that's the one that we probably want to be DK the most.
Well, that and Saberwolf for GBA.
Yeah.
That's the one that always comes up.
They're like the most popular ones among the DK Vine staff, aren't they?
More or less, yeah. So
and Galactic Pinball,
which has no chance of ever being DKU.
No.
I could see that. I don't know. like I said, they were very careful with Yooka-Laylee. It was very much a Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor with some Donkey Kong elements thrown into the pot. And then you had the goldfish Ed Bryan created that's very clearly supposed to be a reference to Royston, but we can't legally say it's Royston, but it's Royston. We'll just leave it to DK Vine to say it's Royston, and the lawyers will be happy with that. But I think like connecting Shell explicitly, not explicitly, but to even be like that that close to saying she's part of the Jet Force world would be stretching things. I don't know if I could see Platonic taking the concept of Jet Force Gemini and saying, you know, oh, we could, you know, have that part of the greater Platonic lore, but not actually have it be Jet Force Gemini. But again, I'm not the Jet Force expert. That would be like Chad, you know, and I know Alistair is also a big fan of Jet Force Gemini, so they would be the ones I would ask more so than me. Unfortunately, Jet Force is just never a game that I've really sunk my teeth into to the point where I have any credibility as an expert as far as espousing with confidence any knowledge about the game. So, but I think there's some clear design inspiration there, and I could see some lore inspiration as well. Much like Yooka-Laylee was clearly inspired by Banjo-Kazooie. So,
yeah, definitely. I think Shell as a character feels very out of place. Am I right in saying she's the only human character in the whole game?
Well, what's Shovel Knight supposed to be under that armor?
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know, but yeah, well, that's what I mean. Joe, I don't know if you've gotten wind of this, but most fans feel like, because Platonic promised that the star of their next game is in Yooka-Laylee, so a lot of people feel like, well, it's Shell then. I mean, Shell's going to be the star of their next game.
Yeah, because it felt like something was going on with her dialogue, something a bit deeper than they were letting on, so it's got to be her.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's basically the overall feeling that Shell's going to be... Which, it surprised me to see Shell in the celebration then at the end. Considering, like, she had you essentially commit genocide or start an interplanetary war, or at least...
It's quite a dark game, really. I thought the darkest point was... accidentally killing Planet's moon and then killing her as well. Yeah. I did not feel like the hero for that at all.
That was very much in line with the kind of George Ice Cube, Mildred Ice Cube type of humor.
Which is also a very uncomfortable moment. Oh, well.
So, I think we'll see Shell again, and I look forward to that. I like that Platonic is committed to having this shared world, and then from there we can have that shared world part of the greater Donkey Kong universe as well, thanks to that fucking goldfish. Thank you for the call on Average Joe, and welcome to the fun world of the DK Vine hotline. Please call again.
Yes.
All right, Joe. Regular Average Joe.
Ain't no average Joe.
Overall thoughts on Yooka-Laylee? What do you think?
I was concerned earlier that it sounded like I was slagging the game off. I wasn't at all. I actually think it's a fantastic game. As soon as I started playing it, like I alluded to earlier, it just felt like it scratched an itch that has been throbbing for many, many years. Just that feeling of playing.
Again, Joe, they have creams and ointments for that.
Yeah, it just felt like I was playing a proper 3D platformer again for the first time in so long. Like, I played Banjo-Tooie for the first time in 2011, and it just felt a lot like that, really. I hope this really does succeed in kickstarting the genre again. I was a bit concerned that the game's gotten a bit of flack because of, like, well, not just like the JonTron issues, but like the Wii U problems, and I didn't think any of that was worth getting upset about. So hopefully the game, I mean, to me it looks like it's gone down very well overall, despite a couple of angry trolls. And I'm just hoping that we get a Yooka-Laylee, very much so, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing this game again.
Yeah, I understand the criticisms of Yooka-Laylee. I get it. I understand that people have issues with some of the world and level design, and
I think it's a game that grows on you. I kind of had my reservations at first, but they soon went away.
I know I brought this analogy up before, but I think it's a good way of understanding Yooka-Laylee and accepting it for what it is. Yeah. Nintendo platformers like Super Mario Odyssey that is coming out, or even maybe like the original Banjo-Kazooie, they're finely refined classical music. Everything is deliberate and everything kind of has a purpose. Yooka-Laylee is more like jazz. It's kind of this free flowing experience, and it's, in a way, each world is a platforming mini sandbox. There's numerous ways to go about some objectives, and some objectives there aren't. There's only one way. A lot of the pages and cages, there's only one way to go about them. But you can, when you learn later moves, you can then sometimes. People have said you can break the game too much, I can see that, but I kind of like that too. I like that you're just kind of dropped in the world, and then you've got to figure out how to get those 25 pages, how to get all the quills, and there's not necessarily a specific path to take. And then the question is raised: does the quote unquote inartful design of Yooka-Laylee make it a bad game? And to that I would say no, not at all. Look, a bad 3D platformer, and I'm sorry to say this, I know this is going to get me in controversy again, but Donkey Kong 64 is a bad 3D platformer. It is. There's good bits in Donkey Kong 64. There's a lot of good bits in Donkey Kong 64. But as a complete package, going from one good bit to another, it's a brutal fucking slog. It's tedious. It's boring in some places. It's a game you beat once and you never really want to play again. Yooka-Laylee is not an ingenious masterpiece. It is not a perfect work of art, but it plays great, and it's a lot of fun while you play it. And it's a game that I've beaten and I want to play again right away. And I'm going to wait for the patch, but I want to play it again. Yeah. And that desire to play it again, I think, to me, speaks to the inherent quality of it. It's a game that's... I understand why it's off-putting to some critics, but I feel like you've got to be in the right mindset for Yooka-Laylee. If you're looking at it from this very academic... Oh, this is what a game needs to be. Then this is the brilliance of game design. Look, is a game fun or not? That should be the bottom line. And Yooka-Laylee is fun. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes we get so concerned about like the finer points of game criticism and game critique that we lose sight of, did I enjoy the experience? I enjoyed Yooka-Laylee from start to finish. Yes, there are bits that I could do without. Kartos, I want to punch him in the fucking face. And Platonic, your next game might be based around Shell and the Space Force and what have you. But you know what? If you want to make a VR game where you just punch Kartos in the face and basically ruin him, then that's fine with me. You go right to it. But... removing Kartos and the way, like, say, Rexstro's games would sometimes pull you out of the experience. And maybe my issues with, like, Isometric Palace. I didn't quite care for that. And overall, I enjoyed Yooka-Laylee. And the experience... Like, I loved Capital Casino. Even with the glitch, I enjoyed Capital Casino. Galleon Galaxy was brilliant. It wasn't like again, academically looking at it as this is how you build a game. Yeah, there were issues, but those issues never detracted from my enjoyment from playing it. I was always having a good time playing Yooka-Laylee, and it's not something like where I'm just kind of trying to whistle past the graveyard like I was with my overabundant praise of Donkey Kong 64 when I was a teenager. This is something a lot more fundamental to the inherent quality of Yooka-Laylee. It's a fine game. It's a good game. It's just not the flawless masterpiece that, say, Banjo-Kazooie is, or that critics would say a Miyamoto game would be. Yooka-Laylee has its blemishes, but those blemishes don't break the game. They don't. And I feel like, as a whole, we need to kind of get over ourselves at certain points, because I feel like we expect perfection from not just video games, at all of our entertainment these days. And if something is enjoyable, isn't that in and of itself fine? Especially when it comes to a video game. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass at this point, but I didn't have the issues that people are having with Yooka-Laylee. My issues were minor, and at the end of the game, I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And like you said, Joe, it scratches this itch that hasn't been scratched in a long time, not just for 3D platforming, but for this type of 3D platformer, for something that's a blatant fucking collectathon. And you know what? For as much shit as collectathons get, and it's Donkey Kong 64's fault. Look, it's Donkey Kong 64's fault.
That killed the genre, didn't it? And then Mario Sunshine danced on the grave. I mean, I love both games, but yeah, it was those two games, I think, that buried the genre.
I think ultimately collectathon even became a bad word around DK Vine. And this game has made me realize I love collectathons. I love the thrill of ticking off the boxes on a checklist. I love checking my total screen and getting giddy, seeing how far I'm getting. Collectathons are great fun. And I feel like Yooka-Laylee, it walked up to the line about, there are 25 pages per world. I mean, it was a lot, but it was never a glut of items. It never felt like it was too much.
Out, if you know what I mean.
No. Yeah. I feel like each world had enough stuff, but it never felt like Donkey Kong 64, where it was just throwing stuff at you to kind of disguise the fact that there wasn't much game there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was game here. There was a lot of game here. There were fun platforming challenges. There were great moments of exploration and discovery. I like that you really had to look off the beaten path, especially for the pirate treasure, once you realized the pirate treasure was there. And it was a game that really... Of course, I did have to look up one thing, though. I had to look up on the internet to make sure there was no pirate treasure in Ivory Towers, because that was going to haunt me. And, there's no total screen for the pirate treasure, so I had to be...
Even Stop and Swap had a total screen.
Well, it was because Pirate Treasure was a last-minute addition to the game. It was something they decided on, I think, at the 11th hour, and... They were just like, oh, it's fine. No total screen. It's a bonus, and it's to leave people guessing. And I like the musical sting when you collect each pirate treasure. It's very foreboding, and it's like, what is this for? And do I have reason to be nervous about collecting this? Yeah. So, all that being said, I loved Yooka-Laylee. It's jazz to the more classical experience of Banjo-Kazooie or Super Mario 64. If you are waiting for this on the Switch, I think for all those people who are sitting this game out so far because they want to experience it on a Nintendo console, or because you're a Nintendo loyalist, I definitely think... Yes. I think this will be appealing to you. I think because this is a retro-style platformer that's specifically injected with the rare style of humor that's been lacking from Nintendo in the last 15 years, I think this is going to be a game this specific audience will love. And maybe I could be wrong because I don't understand Nintendo loyalists anymore. I'm not one of them, and it's not my world. But
It's mine.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I ran off during the Wii, and then the Wii U bought me some flowers, and I came back.
Yeah, I doubt you guys are going to be disappointed. I think the negative critical reaction would have been tempered had this come out on Nintendo first. I really do. I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction from the Nintendo holdouts. I honestly am. So, I wouldn't let the tepid critical response bring you down, because I feel like you lot are going to love it. Yeah. And I love that this game sets up so much for the sequel. Not just the sequel, but potentially other games in Playtonic's future library. You've got Vile. We don't know what they're up to. You've got the true purpose and source of the one book, and by extension, where the batship crazy came from, because Playtonic has promised the batship crazy is going to be explained in future games. And, Galleon Galaxy opens up some questions about maybe the batship crazy. Granted, Galleon Galaxy is a grand tome. It's a book world, so I don't know how the the batship crazy would have gotten from there to there, if it's actually from there. And you've got the pirate treasure, and then you've got potentially Shell and her whole deal. So there's just a lot to sink your teeth into, and I wish we got maybe a little bit more in the actual ending of Yooka-Laylee, but I do really love that there's so much potential now for not just the sequel, but also other types of games from Playtonic that still exist within this world.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the only way is up.
Exactly. And, this is Playtonic's inaugural effort. Really, it is. And the fact that it was this good, I think really speaks well to, now that the rust is kind of shaken off, anything we get from them from here on out is only going to get better and better and better. So, yeah, I'm excited. I love that we have Playtonic to deliver these essentially throwbacks. While we have Rare making Sea of Thieves with kind of an eye towards doing something different, we're really getting the best of both worlds as Rare fans right now. And which is why I'm glad the whole bullshit Playtonic versus Rare, Playtonic is the true Rare, or all the good ones that Rare have left, or even no, Rare is where the true talent is. Playtonic is all the I'm glad that these arguments have subsided now, and that as a fandom, we're more cohesive and kind of healed than we were just a year or so ago, and that we can kind of celebrate both. I'm really not seeing the Rare versus Playtonic arguments anymore. I'm seeing people just kind of embrace the totality of this. Why
can't we all just play video games and have fun? Exactly,
yeah. And it's nice. It's nice that we've all kind of come together, and I'm excited about the future of being a Rare fan and a Playtonic fan. Like you said, the only way from here is up. So let's use the Flappy Flight and hope the power bar doesn't deplete too quickly.
We can always descend gently if it's not all the if the only way is not up after all, thanks to the new patch.
Very, very well said. Well, I guess. But wait a minute, Joe. There is one niggling point of contention. So the Yooka-Laylee rap isn't played at the end of Yooka-Laylee.
Oh no.
And considering that was one half of our justification for even covering Yooka-Laylee, what the whole DK Rapper thing, if it's not in the actual game, what does that say about the status of Yooka-Laylee as a Donkey Kong Universe game?
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.